All right, guys, let's hop right into it. So I've been using a Sony A7 IV for a little over 2 years now, and I can confidently say that this is the best absolute all-around camera that I have ever owned in my entire career. So at the end of the day, I know no camera is perfect. So what I want to go through today is talk to you guys about why this camera was such a game changer for me in my filmmaking journey and my photography journey, and then also let you know some places in which this camera fell short and what I'm pretty much hoping to see in the next update to this camera. So let's hop right into this video. All right, you already know what time it is. If you guys like content like this, make sure you like and subscribe to your boy and show some love, but let's get right into the video. All right, so I bought the Sony A7 IV back in November 2022, and I had more than enough time to put this camera through its paces and really give you a nice long-term review of this camera. But at the end of the day, anybody that knows my channel, if you know me, I am not a very technical person, so this is not going to be about graphs and charts and pixel peeping or anything like that. I'm going to give you guys my real-world experience from using this camera, and I'm just going to let you guys know my honest and actual opinion of this camera. I also think it's important to let you guys know that I am a filmmaker and I do a lot of documentary work, events, corporate, creative shoots, and commercials. So just so you guys can have a perspective of what kind of work I have done with this camera. All right, so this is the Sony A7 IV, and first I just want to talk about the ergonomics. So this basically has an identical body to a lot of the A7 series. So the A7S III, which is a camera I used to have, they pretty much look identical. There's like little differences between them, but they're all pretty much the same. And just like every other Sony A7 series camera, the ergonomics is absolutely amazing. The grip was always amazing for me. Just all the buttons and the dials, like I really got used to this camera, and it's very easy for me to shoot with. And I also really love the EVF. So that's one thing that I genuinely love about this camera. I know a lot of people that shoot on the FX3, the FX30, different cameras like that, and they do not have a EVF. And I'm the type of person that I really I don't want to say I rely on the EVF for everything, but I really use it for a lot of things. When it's too sunny and bright outside, just to get a better view for my composition and making sure I'm framing my shots the right way, I really love using the EVF. So everything about this camera, as far as like ergonomics and the way it's built sturdy, it's built to last, it's built like a tank. So this camera is absolutely perfect in that regard. So the second amazing thing about this camera is that this is the best hybrid camera I have ever owned in my life. And I have owned a lot of cameras. I started off with Canon, and then I moved over to the Blackmagic line, and I loved the image quality I was getting out of the Blackmagic cameras. And then I switched over to Sony, and I have had a Sony A7S III, a Sony FX30. I've used the Sony FX3 multiple times. I now own the Sony FX6, and I'm gonna be real with y'all, this is not cap. If right now someone told me I had to get rid of everything and only keep one camera, what camera would I keep? As much as I love my Sony FX6, I am going to pick the A7 IV just because of the versatility. This gives you amazing video quality. I believe it's a downsample 6K sensor, so the dynamic range in this camera is very good compared to all of the other Sony cameras. I feel like the dynamic range in this camera is really good, and it really matches up well to my FX6. I know a lot of people use the Sony FX3 or the A7S III as a B camera for the FX6, but I use the A7 IV just because the image quality is amazing, and you get 10-bit video at 4K. Trust me guys, the video quality is absolutely amazing. I'm going to get to the one caveat on this later on in this video, but when it comes to video, you can absolutely get amazing footage in this that's comparable to a lot of high-end cinema cameras. Obviously it doesn't have any internal ND or anything like that, but just image quality wise, this stacks up with the best out there. And then also for photography, so I'm not a pro photographer, but I'm a photography hobbyist, I believe. I love to travel with my wife. I love to go out and just take photos of stuff. I also do event photography every once in a while, and this comes with 33 megapixels, and the colors right out of camera, the raw colors right out of camera, is very amazing. And it kind of, I don't want to say it looks like Fujifilm, but it just has that that kind of look, like right out of camera, and it's very, very easy to edit. I've done a lot of like street photography and like just travel photography and videography with this. I'm gonna be dropping random videos and photos all throughout this video, so hopefully you guys can see some of the stuff I've done with this camera. But it's just the best all-around camera. It gives me the best bang for buck. As far as like video and everything, all of my YouTube videos have been filmed on this camera, obviously, except for this one. And all of my content stuff on social media, on Instagram, has been with this camera. If I'm traveling, I'm taking this camera. Honestly, the cliche thing that people say, the best camera that you have is the one that you have access to, the one that's on you. That shines bright with this camera, because this camera is so convenient. I can take it everywhere. I can put a smaller lens on it and I can just travel with it. I can take it all over the place and get amazing high quality footage. And yeah, because of that, I absolutely love this camera. Another thing I have to mention, just like all of the other Sony, the FX30, FX3, the A7S III, all of these Sonys, even the R series, they all have amazing autofocus. So this has the same autofocus as all of the others. Again, I'm not the most technical person, but I've never had a problem with autofocus with this camera. The autofocus is absolutely amazing. If you guys are worried about that, trust me, the Sony, I believe, is actually top tier. It used to be Canon, but I feel like Sony's autofocus is better now. Okay, and just for the real world use, like I said before, this camera has literally been everywhere with me. It's the camera that I've taken everywhere. I've taken it to multiple trips. I've taken it on every shoot that I've been on, every wedding, and it's just such a convenient, reliable camera. It has never failed me, and it's my most reliable camera. It's probably like, it's hard to explain, but you guys ever had something and then when you sit back and you think about how much value it actually brings to you, it makes you appreciate it more. This camera is so consistently good that I feel like I started to get bored with it and just like, just expect greatness. Like, it didn't mean anything when this camera performed well, because that's what I already expected. But as I sat back and I reflected on all the cameras I've owned, I put this up there as number one, the best camera that I've ever owned in my life, best camera I've ever used in my life. And I used a lot of cameras. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying it has the highest specs, the highest qualities, but I feel like there's no wrong answer when you're looking for the right camera in this market. There's so many amazing cameras, but there's the right camera for you, and there's always the better choice. And I feel like in 2025, if you're looking to get a camera that can both shoot photo and video, I would say definitely go for the A7 IV. Even better, if they release a A7 V in 2025, guys, I'm telling you, you guys should go out there and not buy that, but buy the A7 IV when the price drops on this, because this camera is literally amazing. All right, guys, so there's only a select few drawbacks when it comes to this camera. One of the major drawbacks in this camera, which I don't even see as a drawback anymore, but it's the fact that this has a 1.5 crop when you shoot in 60 frames per second. So it pretty much turns into an APS-C camera when you shoot in 60 frames per second. Again, that used to be a drawback for me when I first got it. I used to think like, man, I wish it could just shoot full frame 60, but I actually got really used to it, and I love the fact that with this camera I can crop into APS-C mode, so that gives me more flexibility with my lenses. I can crop in without losing any image quality, in my opinion, for what I've noticed. I don't really lose any image quality when I crop into the APS-C mode or when I shoot 60 frames per second. So with all of my lenses, I know that I have more reach when I'm using this camera whenever I want it. And then another drawback people will say is that it doesn't have that dual ISO, so that 12,800 ISO that's in the other Sony cameras, that's in the FX3 and the A7S III. But again, I never had a problem with that. And once you guys start to learn more about lighting and you start lighting your stuff, this will not be much of a problem for you at all. A lot of times I don't really like to shoot at the 12,800 ISO just because it does have some noise. Ideally, I would like to shoot at the lower base ISO and then light appropriately, but if I'm ever in a pinch, then I could raise the ISO. If you guys plan on buying this camera, I would not raise the ISO past, I believe, like 3,200. Don't quote me on that, you guys can do the research, but I've been able to get amazing footage with this camera in all types of conditions, low light, all types of conditions. So don't let that steer you away from this camera. Okay, lastly, because I know some people might mention it, when this camera first came out, there were some people complaining about overheating. I personally have never experienced that with this camera at all. Again, I live in New Jersey. In the summertime, it gets pretty hot, and I've shot a lot of weddings in the blazing heat outside with this camera, and I haven't experienced any overheating or any problems like that. And then also, like in the fall and winter, it's pretty cold, so again, no overheating, but just to let you guys know that. All right, so final thoughts. If you are in the market for a hybrid camera and you are a content creator, or you're a videographer, or you're a photographer, and you just want to have that flexibility to do both, even if you're a photographer, you might want to get some video content just for BTS purposes, or just to be able to put on your pages. Or if you're a videographer, you want to dibble and dabble in some photography, I'm telling you guys right now, this is the best. The A7 IV is the best absolute camera that I've owned in my life, and I'm not getting paid to say this. I don't have any sponsorship, anything like that. This is a small channel. I'm just being real with y'all. This is the best camera that I have ever owned to this date. And I'm really looking forward to the next version of this camera because of how well they did this. Good luck, Sony, with putting together something better than this, without, like, you know, significantly messing up the market of some of the other higher end, more expensive cameras that you have, because this camera is like, it's perfect, guys. So if you're in the market, if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, a little call to action, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you own this camera, if you're thinking about buying it, what do you think? What are your pros and cons? What's keeping you contemplating? Let me know, and I'll get back to you guys on any questions you guys might have. But thanks for showing me love, and I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video.